Hey everyone, I am excited to be back with a regular DIY video. Now this video is a challenge for you to shop your own stash, use your own supplies, get in there, dig through that stuff, and make something that makes you feel good. Make something that you want to give away to someone. Make something that you want to put in your own home, or make something just to sell. Now you know how we do here. We love to go through our junk and we love to make items, so I hope that you are as excited as I am about this video. Stay until the end because I have a little bit of a surprise for you all. And now let's get on into this video. Hey everyone, it's Sharon with Cozy Junk Studio. We're going to be doing some refreshing items today for spring. Not only are we going to be bringing these into this decade, we're going to be doing some really colorful things to brighten up our spring. Now this first piece is a gorgeous wood piece, and I really hate to paint it, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to be using some crinoline by DIY, which is kind of an off-white paint on this one, because we need a gorgeous neutral background for what we're going to do. Like I said, I hated to paint over that beautiful wood, but this is going to be so pretty when we get finished. Now, what we're going to be doing next is, as soon as I put 2 coats on this and let it dry, we're going to start out with this Le Courier stamp by IOD. We're going to be using this as a background for our gorgeous little bunny we're going to be using. Now, I thought for this stamp we would add some color to our lives, and we're going to be using a Stays On Gorgeous Olive Green. And we're just going to give this a good rub with my fingers, not stressing too much about if it's complete because it's going to be a background, and that is perfectly fine. I pulled it up a little bit because I wanted to make sure that I was at least getting a decent coat on there, and I saw that it needed a little bit more pressure, so that's what I'm doing. Now, I did let this dry, like I said, overnight, or maybe even for a couple of days before I was able to get back to it. And we're going to be using this gorgeous bunny from Roycycled's Spring Blocks. Yes, Spring Blocks paper. And you can find those at Ambi's Attic. She has $9 flat rate shipping. I also carry these in my Hickory, North Carolina antique booth in Hickory, the Hickory antique booth in Hickory, North Carolina. I sell them in my booth if you're ever in the Hickory area. I'm just going to cut this out, and we're going to just put this right on top of that stamping. But first, we're going to do something to the back of this. Now, because I don't want my little bunny to have those words showing through it once I decoupage it on here, I am going to take that same crinoline and I'm going to just paint the back of that bunny and let it dry. Yes, you can paint the back of your decoupage paper any color you want before you add it on. This is not my idea. I'm not sure who started it, but I did see Royce, who makes these papers, do this, and that's how I'm doing mine. Now, before I decoupage my little bunny onto my wood piece, I'm going to make sure that that paint is dry, and then we're going to use Mod Podge to put this on with. Now, since this piece has been stamped on, I'm going to go ahead and seal that in with the Mod Podge. I'm just going to seal the whole thing. It's not necessary. The Stays On is permanent ink, and it has a built-in sealer, I'm assuming, but we're going to go ahead and just put Mod Podge all over the whole piece to make this look cohesive once we add our little decoupage bunny to it. Now, I knew I definitely wanted to add something to this bunny and not just leave him sitting out there in the air, but I really didn't want to put more paper on here, so I kind of thought that we would do a little bit of a 3D with some florals and some faux plants. So I dug through my stash and found a few ferns and a few little roses, and we're going to have like a little boutonniere at the bottom of this bunny. And I'm going to be using a bow today, you guys. I don't know if you can tell, but that ink has turned this bluish green, and it actually is very beautiful. So what I'm doing with these, I'm trying to make these into like a tall boutonniere, and so what I'm going to do is just cut the bottoms off and cut some of the leaves off of the stems so that the stems are long and I can wrap twine around them without those leaves getting in the way. Once I get my florals and my ferns and little plants how I want them, I'm just going to grab a cut off piece of twine. Actually, I think it's a scrap piece, and I'm going to start wrapping it at the top and wrap it to the bottom and put some hot glue to hold it in place to make our little faux boutonniere. Now, if you watch this till the end, you're going to see the little surprise that I have for you all. And I want to let you know, all of you that's been watching my other videos, thank you so much. It told me, well, YouTube told me that more of my viewers are watching those videos all the way to the end. And because of that, it has boosted it out to other people. You have gotten me at least 400 new subscribers since those 2 videos because you're watching them, and you just don't know how much I appreciate that. You know, I was half jokingly, let's grow this channel to 50,000 when I did the video on the deer head, but you guys rock. You all have really kicked it in gear, are watching my videos, and you're helping it grow. So I appreciate you again so much. All right, so once we get this wrapped and put the way we want it, then we're going to use some of this Fusion Antiquing Glaze. I thought we would go around the edges of this and give it a little bit of an antique look and kind of match the rabbit's color. I'm not doing it on the whole thing, just on the edges. And we're going to let that dry. Once that gets dry, we're going to go ahead and attach our little bunny's boutonniere on here. And the way that I'm going to use it is I'm going to use my small staple gun. Now, if you don't have one of these, you should absolutely grab one. I grabbed this one from Walmart several years ago. It's kind of like a mini one, and it's really easy to press. And it comes with different sizes of staples, and you can purchase extra staples. So I'm just going to add 2 staples, one kind of putting one of the plants facing to the left and one a little bit to the right. Now, I did tell you I was going to add a bow, and you know we don't do that very often, but I had this burlap bow, and I think it was from Christmas because it has this little gold bread tie on it. So we're going to kind of cut that off to the back, not remove it because it's what's making the bow stay together, but we're going to hide it. We're going to cut that off, and we're going to add a beautiful vintage button to the front of this to finish this piece off. Now I'm going to add a little sawtooth hanger to the back of this so someone can hang this up with their vignette. What do you think about this little bunny and his little boutonniere and bow? I thought it was just so adorable. A little bit of shabby, a little bit chic, a little bit of spring, and a little bit of Easter. Let me know what you think. Our next project is a fun, colorful one. You guys, this thing is going to be awesome in someone's office, home, bedroom. What we're going to do is we're going to take this really dated, shiny, orangey looking wood holder. I don't know what it's for, but it's called, in my brain, a holder. We're going to add some of this Fusion Champlain paint to this on the outside only for right now, just these outer flat pieces. Now we're going to paint all of them just like I'm painting this one. I'm not showing you all 4 sides, but they will be painted like this. Now I'm going to be using some of Roycycled's papers on this, and we're going to use 2 different ones. Matter of fact, it might be more than 2 different ones. We're going to be using Carmen's Swatches, which is basically a large paper with a bunch of paint swatches. You guys, I love to swatch paint myself. I have books of my watercolors that are swatched. So we're going to use these for a beautiful little fun decor for all year round with these gorgeous little animals. So I just kind of picked out some animals that I thought would look good, and I'm going through the different colors to see what the animals will pop off of. And I remembered that I needed to paint the back of my animals white or a cream color so that they will pop off of the decoupage paper, because if you decoupage paper straight onto a dark color, it will be darker. You don't have to paint anything white, but I'm painting the backs of my animals just like we did with the bunny earlier. But first, let's go ahead and get these papers decoupaged onto the holder itself. So I'm just going to use some Mod Podge, spread that all over, put my paper down. I'm going to make sure that I got a really good thick coat all around the edges as well, because you want to make sure that there's nothing dry underneath your paper. Once I get my good thick coat down, I'm going to start at the very top, and I'm going to put my paper up there, starting to smooth it out with some, you can use some saran wrap, you can use your brush. A lot of people just use their brush to go over the top of it. and they go just piece by piece, which generally I do, but this one I just laid it down and started with the saran wrap and just going all over the whole piece. Now, one thing that I did miss here was spraying or misting my paper with water. It would definitely help get the wrinkles out. I do have some wrinkles, which I don't really care about wrinkles. If you've watched my channel, you know that doesn't bother me. I like things that look handmade and vintage on my channel, but spray your paper just a little bit, mist it, and the wrinkles will disappear. But then you'll be seeing that coming up. I do spray some coming up because I remembered. So I'll let my papers thoroughly dry, and now I'm going to take some sandpaper and sand off all those edges, and it just transforms this thing into something. I know when you all are looking at this and me decoupaging, it just looks like a hot mess. But once you sand off all these edges, the change is amazing. And we are still going to paint the rest of the wood. Even though it's very beautiful, we're still going to paint it. Now that we have all of these edges sanded off, we're going to go ahead and start working on putting our animals on here. Don't that look so much better? All right, so I'm just deciding which ones that I want to go on what colors. And I've already painted my animals on the back. They're dry. We're just going to use some Mod Podge and do the same method with the animals, Mod Podging them on with the Mod Podge. How many times did I say Mod Podge there? Once I get the Mod Podge underneath my little animal, I just go ahead and go over all of it. All the paper, the animal, everything. We're just going to get a bit of good seal. All those edges where I sanded to make sure this thing is sealed up. We do all 4 sides like that, and then we're going to take this Champlain color, go back over the top of that where it got some sanding, and I wasn't really sure at that time what color I was going to paint this, but I decided with all the colors on those swatch decoupage paper that a good trim out in this really faintly cream colored would just make this whole thing pop. So that's what we do. We do all around the top, underneath, and the base, and I do leave the inside that natural wood. I really like how this gave this old dated wood holder a little bit of a fun, fresh spring look, something that someone can use as just a novelty. This isn't anything crazy, bougie, but just something kind of fun to throw out there, put in my booth to give people a smile. I just want to take this time to thank all of my subscribers, including all you new ones. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Now we're going to do a similar project to this next, but we're going to give it just a little bit of a classic look, but updating this dated wood piece. Now I picked this piece up for $2.99. It's a older faux fruit bowl. I think they used to put like fake fruit in these for decor. You could obviously put anything in them, and the bottom was just pretty nasty. That stuff was coming off, so I went ahead and used some of this sticky cork from the dollar store. I went ahead and just stuck this down with its original sticker, but I went back and just put a thin layer of hot glue underneath that. Now I just trimmed it to fit, and I've already painted using that cream color on this space because we're just going to be putting this beautiful decoupage paper right down in the center of this. I let that cream color paint dry, and now I'm putting a good coat of Mod Podge on here. I've already trimmed my decoupage paper down, and I'm just going to place that right in the center. Not getting too stressed out, I go ahead and spray the back of that to get it more pliable so that it'll have less wrinkles. It really does make a difference, you all. So I get that laid down in the center, and I was getting ready to say not getting too stressed out about if it's not perfect. The one nice thing about decoupaging with paper is you can go around the edges with paint and make it look like it was just blended in and meant to be there. So don't get too freaked out about the edges not being perfect. We're going to use this beautiful damask color by Fusion. It is all-in-one. It will make sure that I don't have any bleed through from this wood, as well as cover that wood really nicely, and it has a sealer in it. Now, I purchased my Fusion some time ago from a lady that was going out of business at a really deep discounted price, but you can get yours at Aunt Bee's Attic. I'll have that link in the description box below. She has $9 flat rate shipping and cheaper prices than most people. The Fusion paint is a wonderful paint, especially if you don't want to use a top coat or a primer. Now, I did do 2 coats of this to get complete coverage. We didn't do any waxes or sanding or gold rub and buff, nothing. We left this piece in its natural painted state, if that is a natural state. But what I'm saying is, you don't have to do 15 steps to everything. We put the decoupage paper in the center, sealed it, and added this beautiful paint, and that's it. That's all I'm doing to this piece. Let me know if you love it as much as I do. I think it's very soft and dreamy and just a beautiful statement piece. Now, I know I've been promising you a little bit of a surprise at the end of this video, and I thought we would do a dark and moody spin on spring. I know we've done, I think, at least one moody spring video, but let's take this Christmas sign that's broken and let's turn it into a piece that you could leave out all year long for your moody decor. Now, before we get started with this, I have to make a repair. This was split, and I'm just using some Titebond triple thick glue and clamping down to get that set back in place. We will use some thick paint to fill in any gaps to make it look like it was not there. For the base of this project, we're going to be adding this gorgeous wallpaper. You all, look at this. Oh my goodness. We're not going to be using that snake up in the corner. I probably shouldn't even have pointed that out. But we're going to be using the owl and just some of the things that could be considered part of spring, the floral, the fauna, all that stuff. So I just kind of took around the edges with my finger and kind of marked where I needed to cut. Now I've cut my square out and I'm just going to peel this back off. You all, this stuff is so sticky. When I laid it down and tried to pull it back up a little bit, it would not budge. So I'm not sure that this is really considered removable wallpaper. You just be careful when you buy stuff like this. If it says removable, it could have been that it was sticking to the wood or the paint that was behind this. Once I got my piece started, I just kind of rubbed with my fingers and brought back some of that basket weave type pattern through this, which gave it an even more interesting look, and just kept doing that all the way down. Now, the edges around this, we're going to fix those. Like I said, don't worry too much about when you cut something out how it looks, because you can fix that. It does not have to be perfect. If you're a to a T measurer, you do that. Go ahead and do whatever works for you. I'm using this little Mod Podge scraper thing. It's a rubber scraper to kind of make sure this is stuck down really good, and then I use my hands to kind of bring back that pattern from the board through this paper. I knew I wanted this frame to be a different color, and there were so many beautiful colors in this wallpaper that I thought, well, I'm just going to do some samples at the bottom, and I settled on one of these greens to bring out some of that floral in there and those plants, and just, green. Spring is green. So, and of course I love green, and we're going to go ahead and paint around that frame with this, I think it's called Fern Green by Waverly. I use this a lot at Christmas. It's a really neutral green, which technically what green isn't neutral, but I love this color. So we're going to go ahead and give that a good coat and get all of that white covered up. Now that we've got our frame painted, I want to go ahead and blend in that wallpaper to my edge. So I'm just going to use some of this black chalk paint, just dabbing down in those cracks to blend that to the green. Now where this is actually, this is the DIY clay paint. I do get a little bit on the edges, but I just take a baby wipe and wipe it back. And we're going to do something that's going to blend this in more with that green coming up. So again, I don't get too stressed out about if this kind of gets on the green some. Just wipe it back, and we're going to use some of this gorgeous black wax to kind of tie that edge in with the green painted frame. So for the bunny, we're going to use this vintage music paper. I'm going to remove that extra piece of wood on one of its ears, and I'm not going to cover the tail. We're going to do something different with that. You'll see here shortly. So I just flipped this over and trimmed it out and then cut not all the way close to the bunny. We're going to sand the edges off once we get this glued down how we want it. We're going to Mod Podge this down and then use the iron-on method because I don't plan on going back over this and sealing this paper with anything because it's very fragile, it's very old, and no one's going to be touching it. So I go ahead and put my thick coat of Mod Podge down and let that dry. Now that our Mod Podge is dry, we're going to go ahead and add our paper on and do the iron-on method. I am going to have to piece some pieces of extra music onto this bunny, which works out fine. You can't really tell. So I'm just laying a piece of parchment paper over, or nonstick paper over the bunny, and then getting really, really good going over it several times with my little iron. Then I'm going to just trim the excess off with my scissors and sand those edges in a downward motion to get that paper removed. Before we add our bunny to this piece, we're going to go ahead and give it some shadowing. Now you could use just about any color, green, yellow. I'm using this color by it's Ranger Tim Holtz Distress Oxide in okay, I'll have to put the name on the screen because I can't remember it. But I'm just going around these edges to kind of give this a aged, even more aged look, I guess. And I'm using just a little dauber to do that with. And you can just do the sides of this. I did the sides and got about 1/4 inch to a little bit further in a just a random pattern on the edges of this bunny to make him kind of pop off of that background that we're going to be putting him on. We're going to attach our bunny to this frame, but before we do, I want to go ahead and add a bow around him. I know we're doing 2 bows in this video. You better write that down. No, I'm just kidding. I do like bows. So what we need to do is I want to make this have like a neck part, but I don't want it to be, it needs to go around the back of the bunny's neck. So before we do that, before we make our bow, we're going to glue just a string around the bunny's neck to add the bow to, and I'm going to do that before I put the bunny onto the frame. Now we're going to hot glue our bow to the bunny's neck collar that he has on, or she, and we're going to leave these strings a little long. I thought they'd just really be pretty hanging down, and then we're going to attach this bunny with some Titebond glue and the triple thick Titebond glue and some hot glue. We left that tail blank because I wanted to do something with his tail, and honestly I thought about removing it, but then I thought that might kind of look weird. It does have a little stump there if you remove that fluff, but I love these beautiful green roses that I got from Temu. You all. And I know it's a little green because we already got the green frame, but I promise it turns out looking good. What I have to do is I have to cut some of the base of this off because we don't want it sticking out real far. We want a little bit of a 3D effect. So I just pop some hot glue on there, stick it where I want it on that corner, and this piece is done. Nothing else. Can you believe we made it through a whole video without adding any gold or rub and buff? Let me know what you think of this one. Do you think this is a great one to go in with our spring decor video? Are you getting inspired to use your own supplies, shop your own stash, bring out pieces that need to be updated? I even pulled out a Christmas piece for our little surprise at the end. I loved making over those dark wood pieces into something fresh for spring. Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys real soon in the next video.